Hey guys, it's Kirsten, and for today's video, I was really struggling on what topic I wanted to talk about. I think I kind of overwhelmed myself with like too many ideas, and then I got really like anxious trying to figure out what I should talk about, like for my first like real vlog, I guess. And I was really torn, and then I ended up falling onto this topic because it's actually something I've ended up having a conversation about with multiple people recently. It's just one of those things that everyone kind of knows about, but for some reason it's been popping up on my radar a lot more lately. And that is the concept of kind of comparing yourself and your successes and all of the things going on in your life to other people, specifically on social media, and how that kind of can affect you both positively and negatively. And I really wanted to talk about that because I feel like that's a huge struggle we have. And this is not new information to like anybody. I feel like it's one of those things where as soon as someone says, oh, like being on social media all the time is really bad for your mental health, or it affects you negatively or makes you feel bad, everybody's like, yeah, that makes sense. But at the same time, unless that is explicitly said to us, we don't really think about it, or we don't change our habits. We're on social media all the time. And I know I say that broadly. I'm sure there's some people who aren't all the time, but I, for one, am on it constantly. And I have noticed that it has a negative effect on me. And this is, like I said, like not new information. Like studies have been done on this. Like a lot of people are observing how people are affected by it. I was reading some articles about it that I thought was super interesting. I'll actually link those below. I don't want to throw out a bunch of statistics and just list that off for forever, but I did read a really interesting Forbes article that discussed a lot of studies that show, how we compare ourselves to people and how that can actually cause negative effects to our mental health. It can cause envy, it can cause depression, it can make us feel more isolated. And so I really wanted to like kind of address those sorts of topics because I feel like it's relatable to everyone. And as an artist, it's definitely something we struggle with because we now live in a day and age where being on social media is a huge, huge part of our kind of, not, I don't want to say success, but in a way, yes. Like you have to be on social media to get your stuff seen more widely. Like every artist I know is on Instagram. Most artists I know have a Facebook page. Like most artists I know are on like Tumblr or Twitter, somewhere. Like your art is somewhere. And so you're exposing yourself to these social media platforms. And because you're exposed to all of these things, you kind of start to get the effects of seeing other people's lives compared to yours. And for some people, it's not as big of a deal as for other people. I will get that. So for some people, you might not feel like you're comparing yourselves to other people, and that's totally great. Like it's really good. But I, for one, absolutely compare myself to other people all the time. And for me, that makes it more of a struggle to be proud of what I do, and makes it more of a struggle for me to put my own life and my own experience, like to put it in perspective, I guess. Because it's the easiest thing in the world to be scrolling through your feed and see these artists with a ton of followers, or to see these artists with these beautiful studios, or with this awesome like equipment or these awesome materials that you wish you had, and think like, man, why don't I have that? Like, why can't I have the same successes that other people are having? And then if you're anything like me, those negative thoughts have a tendency to build on themselves, and it kind of turns into like, maybe I don't deserve it. Maybe I'm not working hard enough. Maybe it's just like not meant to be for me. And I know that might sound like dramatic to some people, but it honestly, like, it's one of those things where negativity builds on itself. And so if you see other people's successes and don't feel like you're up to par, it kind of it crosses the line from being inspired by people to being envious, which is just kind of a downward spiral towards a bunch of other negative emotions. And like, I can't speak for you guys, but for me personally, like if I'm already having a particularly bad day and I see stuff like that, it's not just, oh, that's a bummer. Like it legitimately affects me. And I feel like those kinds of negative things that go around comparing yourselves to other people legitimately affect your ability to be effective as an artist and to be productive and healthy as a person. Because if I'm already like kind of having an off day and I start to feel worse about myself because of the kind of highlights that people are projecting on social media, I'll just honestly half the time will just be like, forget it. Like I already wasn't feeling motivated. Now I just feel even worse because I know I'm not up to par. And the rest of that day will be me lying in bed, just watching YouTube and eating Cheez-Its. Like my whole day will be shot. Like it, on a bad day, it affects me that badly. And the thing is, that isn't unique to me. I know there are other people who feel they lose that motivation because if other people are doing so well and I don't feel like I'm that good, why even bother trying? And you can see how it's kind of like a negative thing that you keep falling into. And so I think one of the things we kind of have to do if we're going to live in a society where we rely on social media so hard, we owe it to ourselves to kind of take control of what we can and to kind of assess it and approach it in a way that isn't so potentially damaging to us, because ultimately social media is not a bad thing. Like, it definitely helps people get exposure. It helps you meet new people. Like, it helps you get your stuff out there. Like, ultimately, like, I have benefited from having social media in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's helped get my art seen by more people. It's helped me get jobs. It's definitely helped me meet people that have had a huge impact on my life. And I'm like super grateful for that. But there are also downsides to it. And I think it's up to us to look at it from a less idealized sort of situation, because the way social media works is it takes the stuff that people want to see, like the best stuff that people want to see, and put it in the forefront. So when people have this idealized version of like what a really awesome, amazing life looks like, someone who travels a lot, who's really successful in their career, whatever have you, that, is trending that day, those things get seen by more people because we push them to the forefront. We push an idealized version of the world to the front, and that is what we see. And comparatively, like in the grand scheme of things, the proportion of people who have that is so much smaller than the average person. And yet it's the average person who feels like they're the only ones left out, because it's kind of designed to do that. And I'm not saying social media was designed to make us feel bad for not being this one type of person or this one image of a lifestyle, but we push our dreams and our goals and our inspirations to the front because that's what we want to see. It's what we want to strive for. But if it doesn't happen right away, then suddenly it flips in the other direction and it's no longer an inspiration for us. And the other thing that it becomes difficult to wrap your head around and then to kind of step back from is, again, not new information, but we are comparing all of the aspects of our lives to like these minuscule highlights that other people are posting and thinking that's a fair representation of who they are. Because like you might see an artist you really love get picked up by a major company, or, get accepted to a really hard to get into show, or, finally, get the keys to an awesome studio, and think like, wow, their whole life must be super awesome. Nothing I do is that awesome. But for you, you have your accomplishments and your victories in your life. It's just they're surrounded by everything else. And when you see everything else, it makes your victories and your successes look smaller. And when all you can see is someone else's successes, you have nothing to compare it to in their life. So it looks like all they have is success. And I guarantee you there is much more going on in their life than they got that job. Like there are other things happening there. And it is our job to at least remind ourselves that. It's not our job to know what those other experiences are. It's just to know that you don't have to have success and awesome things to highlight all the time in order to appreciate the stuff that you do have. And I think that's kind of one way to look at it, like pick out the parts of your life that you think are really, really awesome and look at just that and appreciate it instead of seeing it in comparison to something else. And I think it's also in the defense of people, like I admire so many artists online, even though there are times when looking at their successes makes me feel bad, knowing that like they didn't get there overnight. Like they absolutely did not get there overnight. Like anyone who has a very large following or who has a lot of skill with their art or who has made accomplishments in the art field did it because they put the time and effort into it. Like they did not start off with 100,000 followers. They did not start off being amazing at what they do. They did not start off with the most expensive supplies. And it's not fair to ask like, why don't I have that, when like it's something that can just be handed to you or you can just attain by doing one specific thing on social media. That takes away the hard work of people who've worked for years to get where they are. And it also makes you feel worse because you think you're doing something wrong because it doesn't happen overnight. Like there isn't a quick fix to success. And art in and of itself is a difficult industry where it is difficult to get your work seen and it's difficult to kind of live consistently on it. So to just look at someone who has succeeded to an extent and be upset that you haven't gotten there overnight, it's not a fair comparison. It's just not how you need to look at it. It's not healthy for you to look at it that way. And I'll admit, like, I have had a handful of people, both online and like people that I know, like, ask me, like, how did you get so many followers? Like, I want that many followers. How did you do it? Like, there is a secret answer that people aren't telling you. And I mean, I guess from the outside perspective, it's like, yeah, she posts a bunch of art and she has like a decent following online. Like, that's really awesome. But I've been doing daily drawings every single day, save for like 2 days, but pretty much every single day for 5 years almost. It'll be 5 years in October that I've been doing this. And so for me to have attained the amount of followers that I have over a 5 year period, like, it wasn't instant success and people like, are waiting for me to give them an answer on how to do it. I just consistently posted and I let my art improve with practice, and it just it takes time. And so like, that's my experience with it, where it's like I'm over here like wishing I was like someone else, and then I find out like, oh, some people might think that of me, and that just makes me feel like, no, like, don't focus on the numbers, don't focus on what I have, focus on what you have, because I know so many artists who are phenomenal, who are just like, man, I only have like this many followers online. I'm like, that doesn't make you less of an artist. That doesn't make you less talented. It doesn't make you less skilled. It doesn't take away the hours you put into what you've done. And I want people to kind of like turn it back in on themselves and acknowledge their own accomplishments. And I almost feel like a hypocrite saying that, because I don't always do that, but I try to, and you can learn to do it, because looking inward on yourself and kind of like addressing your emotions is a learned thing you can do. It doesn't happen right away. And I know people are going to be like, it's not that easy. You can't just turn it off. Like, you can't just stop comparing yourself. You can't just stop feeling the way you do. And I totally agree. Like, one of the most common things I say when I'm super stressed out is, you don't understand. Like, it is not that easy for me to figure stuff out, because it's not. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Like, nothing ever got easier because you don't try it. You have to put the work into trying to rein in your emotions and be more productive with them. Because otherwise, you could spend the rest of your life sitting there looking at other people's successes, wondering why you don't have it, and stay there if you don't try to make changes. And I think it's also really important to know that, like, comparing yourself to someone else and trying to be exactly like them is almost assuredly setting yourself up for some kind of failure, because your experiences are your own and they're always going to be yours, and someone else's is always going to be theirs. And if you could do exactly what someone else did and your life will not turn out the same as theirs, because it just doesn't work that way. Everyone is different. And so if you're doing all these things to be exactly like somebody else, and then you don't end up as this idealized version of them that you have in your brain, you're just going to feel worse about yourself. Like, you need to kind of step back from what everyone else is doing and allow them to just be on the fringes as inspiration while you focus on your own life. Like, what you do and what you produce and what's in front of you is the only real thing that matters, because why would you want to ignore what you're doing for the sake of someone else? Like, why would you not just want to put all of that energy and all that effort and all that excitement for good artwork in the world and put it into what you're doing? Like, what you do is what matters. So I feel like we need to condition ourselves and train ourselves to get out of this mindset that we might have and focus on what we have for ourselves. And again, I know that's not easy. I know it's really easy to just say that, but it really does over time become a little bit easier. It absolutely does. Like, I promise. Like, it took me, I've been in therapy for years, and working with a therapist has absolutely helped. But just being really present and acknowledging, like, okay, I'm looking at my phone right now. I feel really bad. Turn the phone off, put it down for 5 minutes, and try to figure out why it is I feel bad. Am I jealous of these people? Am I envious of what they have? Am I scared that I'm never going to be where they are? And if that's true, okay, so what can I do to change that? So instead of sitting here wishing I had been accepted into a show or gotten a job at a place, maybe acknowledge the fact that I don't update my portfolio as often as I want to. Like, I haven't applied to any major jobs before. I don't look ahead to find out the deadlines for applications for major Comic Cons and expos. So of course I don't have the same thing that other artists have, because I haven't put that effort into figuring out how to do it myself. You can want and wish forever, and sometimes stuff happens with good luck and good timing, but a lot of it is just, okay, so what can I do that would work for me? What can I actually do? And like, just figuring out why you want certain things and then figuring out how to get them in the context of your own experiences. And I mean, ultimately, yeah, it doesn't always feel great that you don't feel like you're getting the jobs. Like I went to an art school. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I know a lot of artists. Like I know a lot of artists in the industry. I have several friends who work for major motion pictures. I have several friends who freelance for comic book companies, like big comic companies like Marvel and DC. Like I know people in these industries, and it's every time I see that happen, part of me like twinges a little bit because I'm like, man, like they're doing so well, but then I look at them as artists and as people, I'm like, God, they hustle so hard. Like they practice every single day and they're out there interviewing with people and sending their portfolios to everybody and just like getting their names out there and talking to everyone. I'm like, yeah, of course, like this is working out for you because look at all this work you put into it. And this ramble is not meant to bash anyone who doesn't have like, you know, working 5 million hours a week or whatever. Like it's not trying to bash anyone. It's just saying like, it's not like people who have the things that you think you want got it by snapping their fingers and it was there. Like everything seems unattainable when there's a lot of obstacles in your way, but that doesn't mean you can't get there if you slowly break down the things that are in front of you. And I just want people to understand that maybe your life will never be exactly like someone you admire, and that's okay because that doesn't mean you can't do super awesome things with your life anyways. Like I don't have my whole life figured out. I don't know what I'm going to do a year from now. Like, I don't know where things are going to be. And I definitely want to improve and try harder and overcome a lot of the struggles I have with physical and mental health and dealing with like a lot of the issues that I have with my artwork. But I'm acknowledging the fact that currently, like, I'm on a really good contract with a great company. And that happened because I stopped being scared and I applied for a job that I honestly didn't think I had a chance of getting. And I didn't get right away. This job that I have, this contract that I have, I did not get it the first time around. I had applied for it over a year ago and they liked me, but didn't pick me for the job. But I kept doing what I was doing and I was like, this sucks, but I'm going to keep working on stuff anyways. And then over a year went by and they reached out and they were like, are you still interested? And you know what? Like, it just happens like that sometimes. It doesn't mean, just because it took a year for it to happen doesn't mean what I'm doing right now is less awesome. It just means it didn't happen right away and I'm not going to stop doing stuff because it doesn't happen right away. And that was a really good like indicator for me that like, oh, it's not the end of the world. So just keep trying. So hopefully that makes sense to people, because it just feels like it's a mindset that we all are aware is there, but we still kind of let it overwhelm us sometimes. And so I want, for the sake of everyone not feeling crappy, like I want us to be aware of when things are making us feel negative and then take the steps to try to not be that way, because your work is valid. Like the effort you put into what you do is super valid and you shouldn't take that away from yourself because it's not the same as someone else's. Like what you do deserves your support and your love, you know, it deserves that. And I want people to understand that it's okay to love what you have and it's okay to be satisfied with what you have, or it's okay to not be satisfied, but know that you're making improvements for yourself so you can be happy, not so you can say, well, I have like 100 million followers. Like that's cool, but are you happy? Like I want people to do stuff for themselves and I want them to be really stoked about doing it. Like I think that would be super great. So yeah, I hope that was helpful to some of you guys. If it was, let me know. If it wasn't, I'd love to hear what your experiences are too. Like if you can think of something that I didn't talk about that you think is really important to bring up, please like put it in the comments down below. I think we should talk about it because again, these are my experiences and it's not the same as everyone else's experiences, but I do feel like a lot of us struggle with the same stuff. So let me know. Let me know if there's something else you want me to talk about as well. And if you like this video, go ahead and like it down below. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this, or if you want to stick around for my art videos as well, which we'll be posting. My first one will be posting this upcoming Monday, so you can stay tuned for that. And I think that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!